May 1945. Germany is collapsing. Among the endless convoys of surrendering troops, one man simply vanishes, and with him a secret that still haunts history. His name is Hans Kammler, an engineer who built the Reich's most secret weapons. Some said he took his own life, others swore he was captured by the Americans. But behind this mystery lies a darker truth. Hans Friedrich Karl Franz Kammler was born on 26 August 1901 in Stettin, then part of the German Empire. His father was a civil servant, and his upbringing followed the traditional Prussian path of discipline, study, and service. In the 1920s, Kammler studied civil engineering in Danzig and Munich, earning a doctorate. But his ambitions soon extended beyond architecture. Like many young professionals in the unstable years of the Weimar Republic, he turned to nationalism for direction. In 1931, Kammler joined the Nazi Party and the SS 2 years before Hitler came to power. He quickly aligned himself with the movement's technocratic wing, those who believed Germany's future rested on efficiency, organization, and total control. Within the SS, his engineering skills made him valuable. By the mid-1930s, he worked in the Reich Ministry of Aviation, involved in construction projects for the Luftwaffe. His blend of administrative skill and loyalty to the regime drew the attention of high-ranking figures, especially Heinrich Himmler, who valued technical minds capable of turning ideology into infrastructure. By late 1943, Hans Kammler took a decisive turn. The Third Reich was under siege from the air, and Allied bombers were crippling German industry. Hitler demanded that production be moved underground, a task requiring both engineering vision and absolute ruthlessness. Kammler, already head of the SS construction office, fit that description perfectly. He was appointed to oversee a vast program of subterranean armament facilities, including one that would become infamous, Mittelwerk, hidden within the Harz Mountains near Nordhausen. Mittelwerk was designed to produce the V-2 rocket, Germany's most advanced weapon. On 19 August 1943, after the British bombing of the Peenemünde testing site, Kammler took control of the relocation effort. He established Mittelbau Dora, a subcamp of Buchenwald, to supply forced labor for the project. The tunnels of the abandoned Konstein mine were expanded into a labyrinth of assembly lines, workshops, and storage chambers. The conditions were severe and efficiency-driven, Kammler's signature approach. His background as an engineer merged seamlessly with his SS authority, and production accelerated despite devastating human cost. Kammler now reported directly to both Heinrich Himmler and Albert Speer, the Reich's armaments minister. While Speer managed production targets, Kammler controlled the means, the labor, facilities, and logistics. In March 1944, Kammler's influence expanded further with the creation of the Jägerstaff, or fighter staff, a special task force coordinating aircraft production. When Allied bombings threatened Germany's aircraft plants, Kammler again proposed underground construction. By September 1944, his authority extended to nearly every major weapons project, from the V-1 and V-2 rockets to the Me-262 jet fighter. Hitler himself took notice, praising Kammler as one of the few men still capable of delivering miracles. By January 1945, Kammler had become one of the most powerful figures in the collapsing Reich. Hitler appointed him plenipotentiary general for jet aircraft, effectively giving him control over the Luftwaffe's last technological projects, an authority that rivaled even Hermann Göring's. In this role, Kammler coordinated not only the production of the Me-262, but also the logistical relocation of technical staff, research facilities, and sensitive documentation as Allied forces advanced. But his success was double-edged. By concentrating power in his hands, Kammler became a threat to others.
Speer later described Kammler as a coldly efficient technocrat, ambitious, disciplined, and increasingly dangerous as the war collapsed. He feared Kammler might use the chaos to bargain with the Allies for his own survival. As Soviet troops closed in from the east and the Western Allies crossed the Rhine, Kammler's empire, rockets, aircraft, camps, and factories began to disintegrate. In April 1945, the Third Reich was collapsing. Allied forces pressed from the west, Soviet armies from the east, and cities across Germany lay in ruins. Amid the chaos, Kammler was still on the move, a man with extraordinary authority, controlling some of the Reich's most advanced weapons programs and the people who built them. But his position had become untenable. Even within the SS, the chain of command had disintegrated. Kammler's subordinates were fleeing, records were being burned, and his empire of secret factories was falling to Allied troops one after another. On April 1, 1945, Kammler reportedly relocated his headquarters to Munich, directing the evacuation of key V-2 personnel from central Germany toward Bavaria and Austria. According to surviving telegrams, he was still issuing orders to units at Leitmeritz and Mittelwerk. At the same time, he organized the transfer of scientists like Werner von Braun and Walter Dornberger, whose expertise was now of immense interest to both the Allies and the Soviets. Some historians believe that by this point, Kammler was already positioning himself for survival, less as a fugitive and more as a potential bargaining chip. In mid-April, Kammler held a series of meetings with senior rocket engineers. One of the best documented took place at Ober-Almengau, a small Bavarian town near the Alps, on 22 April 1945. There he met von Braun, Dornberger, and other Peenemünde veterans to discuss surrendering to the Americans rather than the Soviets. Witnesses later recalled Kammler as calm, pragmatic, and unusually courteous, a man calculating his next move rather than accepting defeat. After that meeting, Kammler's trail grew faint. Reports suggest he traveled south toward Linz, possibly via Salzburg. He was last confirmed in contact with his staff around 26 April, when communications abruptly ceased. Yet on 7 May 1945, a message bearing his signature reached the OKLW.
SS command at Leitmeritz, instructing them to destroy files and evacuate the area. The date is critical. Germany had already begun surrender negotiations. If the telegram was genuine, Kammler was still alive at least 2 days before Germany's official capitulation. Then, nothing. No verified sightings, no captured documents, no confirmed body. Within weeks, rumors filled the void. Some claimed Kammler took his own life near Prague on 9 May 1945 after ordering his driver to leave him alone. Others said he was shot by his own men. Conflicting stories spread, but none could be verified. Still, for the authorities, the story was convenient. Declaring Kammler dead allowed the Allies and post-war German courts to close one more file in a sea of missing names. Yet newly surfaced intelligence reports, including correspondence of the Office of Strategic Services, precursor to the CIA, hinted that U.S. forces may have detained him in May or June 1945, possibly in connection with Operation Paperclip and the transfer of German rocket scientists. When Germany surrendered days later, Hans Kammler had already vanished, and the search for him was just beginning. In the months that followed, Kammler's name appeared repeatedly in Allied intelligence files. American and British investigators knew exactly who he was. His signature was found on documents tied to armaments, rocket facilities, and the concentration camp system. Yet every lead ended in uncertainty. By November 1945, U.S. Brigadier General George MacDonald, head of intelligence for the U.S. Air Force in Europe, ordered a search for Kammler after reports suggested he might already be in American custody.
A separate British note referred to a Dr. Hans Kammler, SS general, believed to hold detailed knowledge of V2 production in the Harz region. Despite these efforts, no confirmed record of his arrest or interrogation ever surfaced. In post-war Germany, the matter appeared more settled. Kammler's family, living in Berlin, petitioned a local court to have him declared dead. In September 1948, the Berlin-Charlottenburg District Court ruled that Kammler had died on 9 May 1945, based primarily on the affidavits of his driver Kurt Preuck and aide Heinz Zeuner. Both claimed he had taken his own life in northern Bohemia shortly after the German surrender. The court accepted their testimony without physical proof: no body, no grave, and no official verification. It was a legal closure, not a historical one. But historians have continued to question that conclusion. In 2019, German researchers Rainer Karl and Frank Dobert published findings in collaboration with the Wilson Center, drawing on declassified U.S. and German archives. Their study, Hans Kammler, Hitler's Last Hope in American Hands, argued that Kammler may have surrendered to U.S. forces near Prague and been held for interrogation. According to Karl and Dobert, several U.S. intelligence officers mentioned an unnamed SS general with detailed knowledge of German secret weapons who was flown to interrogation centers in Bavaria during summer 1945. Both men contended that this unnamed figure could have been Kammler, and that the story of his supposed death was later fabricated to obscure U.S. cooperation with former SS personnel in the early Cold War. Skeptics counter that no hard evidence supports this theory. No interrogation records, fingerprints, or photographs exist to confirm Kammler's capture. Others point to the tendency of Cold War mythology to inflate such stories, merging fragments of rumor, misplaced documents, and post-war secrecy into legends. Many historians argue that Kammler's disappearance simply reflected the chaos of 1945. A man with many enemies and little protection likely perished as Germany fell apart. The truth remains elusive. Whether Hans Kammler died in Bohemia, was executed by his own men, or vanished into the shadow world of Allied intelligence, one fact is certain: no official trace of him has ever been found. His disappearance left a void that myth quickly filled, turning a bureaucratic engineer into one of the Third Reich's enduring mysteries, a man who built the machinery of war and then disappeared into its ruins. Thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for more videos.